No complaints whatsoever. I guess the turf of the market, which is that there is liquidity, there is global strength, there is whether it is FOMO or whether it is madness, the participation in the mid and the small cap space continues. So the week gone by, I guess you got support from the laggard sector also, which is IT, but purely in terms of in market, I mean, you cannot find a fault line. This is a market where, if I may use the good old phrase, that make hay while the sun shines, and there is a lot of sunshine, and which is a function of liquidity, global strength, and participation. In this kind of a market, the approach has to be very simple. You do not want to preempt the market top just for the sake of preempting the market top. You have to be with the flow. However, in this market, you should also not be blinded with valuations, which is that you do not want to make fresh investments. So what you own, stay. You don't want to invest more. However, in the run up to the budget, now the near last 2 weeks versus next 2 weeks would be dramatically different. We have earnings, we have budget, and also globally also you would imagine that the earnings season in a sense will have its implications. So post election, this market has been in a roaring uptrend. That roaring uptrend now seems to be settling, and you may actually see volatility and you may see news reaction rather than a technical push. So last 2 weeks versus next 2 weeks, it could be dramatically different.
In fact, Nikunj, last week's, the second half of last week action was clearly dominated by what happened in IT. 7% up move in TCS is also responsible why 24,500 is captured on the Nifty. You think IT, the mojo may very well continue looking at the way HCL Tech panned out?
See, IT is going by the market cap addition as well, I think.
Yeah, see, the numbers do not inspire that kind of confidence. If I look at both HCL Tech, we have two numbers to judge from, that the IT has turned. So incrementally, the decline has arrested, but just because the decline has got arrested, that does not mean that the business trajectory is going to improve. That's the first part. Second, IT has been a laggard sector. And why just IT? Look at what happened to Maruti last week. What did they get? Tax benefits by the state of UP in a category called hybrid, and the stock went up by 8%. The similar kind of a phenomenon, I think, was visible in IT last week. IT has been a laggard sector. It's a sector where participation is not there. It's a sector where everybody is hungry really to come back from other sectors to IT, because it is cheap and these companies in a sense are not very expensive. So in my judgment, I think the rally in IT stocks, especially on a stock like TCS or in some of the other IT stocks, I think was a bit of a stretch. The follow-up may not be there, and IT, just because it's a backbencher with the market momentum, it's a rising tide phenomenon. I think I would wait for the first quarter and another quarter before you get convinced that things are really turning for better for IT. I mean, you need to get early in the trade, but I think I'm not very convinced that the trade is there. At least that's my assessment.
The other big story of the weekend, the visuals actually were, that is the assassination attempt on Trump. Do you think that this could extend the US rally or momentum there because of sympathy trade now?
See, I'm not a political expert. What's happened is shocking. And what has happened is a clear failure by one of the most marquee agencies in the world, which is the US Secret Service. Their job is to protect the current president, the past presidents, and the final candidates. I mean, they've clearly failed to do their duty. So one is the whole social angle as to, okay, why gun laws are there and how guns are available like Lego toys and you can really buy them freely. And I mean, imagine one of the most powerful person in a rally has been attempted to shoot out. I mean, thankfully, it was an attempt. It did not translate into reality, but the attempt clearly was there. It was just like a very narrow escape. Donald Trump just got lucky, let me put it this way. But how will this have implications on politics? How will this have implications in terms of how things will move in the short term? I think we should not try and connect two things.
But Wall Street is in love with Mr. Trump, right? So will he get the sympathy that the street would start looking at it going into election? Do you think it may start?
Okay, again, we are not experts, but if you just look at what is there, you look at the latest ratings which are coming for Joe Biden, the current US president, there seems to be in decline. Concerns have been raised about his ability to govern. That's what I've read and that's what we've seen. Second, in that particular backdrop, now you've got an assassination attempt on the Republican nominee, which is Donald Trump. You clearly will see whether it's sympathy vote or whether it is a whether there would be impact or not. Now, there are two parallels which everybody's spoken about, that look, if you have a Republican president versus you have a Democratic president, what would be the implications of that? The implications of that would be, let's look at what happened between 2014 and 2015 and 2019, or 2016 to 2020. What factors were at play? Globalization, in a sense, was broken down. US manufacturing was pushed up. Interest rates were kept down. Stock markets did rather well. So if one works with an assumption that, look, good old Republicans will make a comeback, so what are the policies they will follow? They are not so much against use of current fossil fuels. They are anti-globalization. They've not been very constructive about how things are moving on the NATO front. So if that happens, and which is still a far cry, we are in July and we are talking about November. But if that situation has to happen, obviously it will have implications.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.